All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at these values of stuff. So remember, sine is or these this circle is cosine of theta, comma sine of theta. So sine of 0 is 0, sine of 90 is 1, 180 is negative. Just kidding. 180 is 0, then negative 1, then 0. Then going backwards would be negative 1, 0, 1, 0. Okay. Cosine is going to start at 1, then go to 0, then go to negative 1, then go to 0, then go back to 1. Negative 90 will be at 0. Negative 1, 0, and back at 1. Tangent is going to be created by taking the ratio. So sine over cosine. So that's 0, that's undefined. 0, undefined. 0, and then negative 90 is undefined. 0, undefined, and then 0. And then cosecant will be undefined. 1, undefined. Negative 1, undefined. I don't think it's ever 0. Just kidding. 1 over negative 1, so negative 1, and then undefined. And then 1, and then undefined. And then secant will be 1, undefined. Negative 1, undefined. 1, undefined. Negative 1, undefined. And then 1. And then cotangent will be undefined first. Then 0, undefined. 0, undefined. 0, undefined. 0, and then undefined. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph these. So amplitude is the height of the graph. So once you split the graph in half, it's the highest point, which is the same distance as the lowest point. The period is the distance it takes along the x-axis to make one complete cycle. So the period is 360 degrees for sine, and the amplitude is going to be 1, because you'll see. So I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to go up here, back down, down, and then up. And so my sine looks like this, and then I can go backwards. And now I've done what we call 2 periods of sine. Cosine starts out at 1, goes down here. And I'm using my table of values, but I don't have them on my screen right now. I just have them memorized, so that's why I'm doing it this way. Oop, I did this wrong. Boop. It goes here, 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 and then back up. Okay, so the period again is 360 degrees, and the amplitude is 1, because it's once you split it in half, right? It's the distance going up or the distance going down as your amplitude. Okay, so now tangent, 0, undefined, 0, undefined, 0, undefined, 0, undefined, and 0. And what you notice is that the tangent at 45 degrees is going to be 1. So, and the tangent of negative 45 degrees is actually at negative 1. So my graph actually looks something like this. And then it repeats. So it goes here, it goes here, and then it goes up here. So tangent, remember, is sine of theta over cosine of theta. So the period is actually 180 degrees. And then and then we don't talk about the amplitude because we don't talk about the height of the graph. But it does have asymptotes. So what we call asymptotes, meaning that it gets very, very close to something and then doesn't ever cross it. And so there is a vertical asymptote at everywhere where it's a multiple of 90 degrees. So, but it's at 90 degrees, so plus or minus 90, and then plus or minus 270 degrees is my asymptotes. And then cosecant is sine actually flipped outward. I'll show you. So if I do the graph of sine, like this, cosecant of 0 is undefined. I should use a different color. So cosecant of 0 is undefined. And then it's at 1, and then it's undefined. So it actually flips outward like this. And then at 360 is another asymptote, and at 270 it's at -1, so it actually flips outward. And again here it flips outward, and then here it goes the other direction as well. So there's an asymptote at 90 and at 2, just kidding, not at 90, at 0, 180, and 360, and that is plus or minus on both of them. Okay? All right. Secant is one over cosine. Oh, by the way, the period is still 180 degrees, but we do not talk about amplitude. Same thing here. We don't talk about amplitude, but the period will be 180 degrees because now my asymptote is at 90, 270, -90, and -270 degrees. So if I were to sketch my cosine graph, oops, I cannot do this right now. Okay. I'm not making it fat enough. Okay, there we go. So now my graph is going to be the opposite direction at of cosine. So it's cosine flipped outward. There's an asymptote at plus or minus 90 degrees and plus or minus 270 degrees. And then cotangent, it's 0 here, here. So, no, cotangent, I would just want to make sure. It's undefined at 0, yeah. So it's undefined at 0. So undefined at 0, undefined at 180. So it's going to be the opposite direction. So it's actually going to look like this. And then you have your asymptotes. So we don't talk about amplitude. We talk about the period, which is still 180. Okay? And that is it for this lesson.